Bumps, sets, and spikes, but without the sand. This is Sega Masters. Yes, it's another great sports title, our fifth in the series to be exact, and another attempt to compete with a similar cart on the competing system. Yet for whatever reason, Sega decided to focus this entry on Volleyball, an athletic contest that doesn't get a lot of love in the console realm, mainly because it's not as mainstream as most other sports in the world. In fact, of the few video volleyball games in existence, most of them focused on the more popular beach volleyball, which is understandable since its 2-on-2 competition translates rather easily to the video screen, among other things. Sadly, the Master System never received a beach volleyball sim. Instead, the Master System's sole volleyball cart spotlights 6-on-6 indoor volleyball, basically the type you'd see in the Olympics and other world circuits. Here you have to worry about 6 men on each side and their various interactions among them, which is a little tougher to reproduce on the video screen with any real satisfaction. Nintendo certainly tried their hand at bringing indoor volleyball to their console earlier in 1987, and it was a somewhat workable effort despite quite a few quirks, but nothing you'd want to play for a long time, or even a short time. I'm sure like the other great sports titles released thus far, Sega thought, we can do this, but better! But in this case, they may have actually succeeded when Nintendo's cart falters. Sega's offering features 3 gameplay options. The practice mode is just what it says, a chance to hone your skills before going into real competition. You work on your serving and your spiking moves with your teammates while your coach observes you from the sidelines, either encouraging you with praise or tearing you down with criticism. Serving and spiking in this game requires some complex button combinations to get down, so this is a pretty useful way to get a handle on the controls. We'll now look at the main gameplay modes, both of which feature solo or 2-player action. The Goodwill match is the quick exhibition game as once again Sega decides to concentrate on international competition. As usual, you're greeted with a selection of 8 countries to represent, differentiated only by colors and skin tone. Unlike Great Ice Hockey, however, you're not forced to play as the US team if you choose not to. After you choose your squad, you next get to distribute some skill points to customize your attributes. Although any effect these stat boosts have on your team isn't really noticeable. Once both competitors are chosen, it's time to head to the court for some 6-on-6 action. As you can see, Sega pretty much lifted the core setup and gameplay from Nintendo's cart, even using the same slightly angled side view. In any case, once the ball is served into play, it's indoor V-ball as you'd expect, with you trying to bump, set, and spike your way to victory by taking 2 or 3 sets. The thing about volleyball is getting the ball over the net in 3 hits or less involves mainly reacting to the way the ball often randomly bounces, from coordinating attacks on the fly to blocking and returning the opponent's shots. Sega tries to reproduce the action with their seemingly complex controls and by borrowing Nintendo's idea of having you often control 3 players at once. But once you learn how to use your 3 active players, you'll find this method actually does a solid job in setting up your spikes and dinks over the net. Your teammates also have decent enough intelligence in reacting to attacks coming their way for the most part, from kneel-down bumps to pulling off desperation digs just within their reach. And you can even call your front line together for a tandem block. With enough practice, you'll be able to use the controls to pull off some slick moves. After all, who doesn't love laying down a spike that knocks the opposing defender on his rear? All in all, the gameplay is nicely done, certainly smoother than Nintendo's cart. The visuals are also more pleasing to the eyes than its NES counterpart, especially the color scheme for the court. Though the players on each of the teams all look the same, they're nicely drawn with some fluid animation, even looking like they're from the countries they represent. Other nice touches include the referee in the chair calling the points with his arms, and the players rotating after a side out. A rather pleasant background tune plays during each match and doesn't really intrude on the action, while the sound effects for each bump and spike are functional enough. Plus, for once, the crowd cheering actually sounds decent. Scoring 15 points takes the set, though you have to win by at least 2, then you switch sides for the next set. But good luck trying to win anything against the ferocious CPU. It's very hard to score against the computer team who always seems to return what you send them. Even if you get a good spike down, they always manage to block it and send it back, often shooting it at just the right spot to score with you unable to stop it. As a result, it's not unusual for the CPU team to go on long scoring runs that leave you frustrated, if not discouraged. Some quirky physics also pop up. As the ball falls to the court, it often somehow changes trajectory at the last second, causing you to miss bumps you should have made if you don't adjust in time, and adding to the cheapness. This game is definitely much more fun with two human players, since you both have the same handicaps. While the NES cart only offers a quick one-and-done contest, Sega's cart goes further with a tournament mode, pitting all 8 teams against each other in a single elimination bracket for the gold medal. You pick your team, distribute your skill points, then you compete in the first of 3 matches separating you from the championship. The action is the same as the Goodwill match, but should you somehow take 2 or 3 sets, you get to advance to the next round, receiving more skill points to further boost your attributes. Be aware the opposition starts out tougher than the Goodwill match, and gets even more grueling in the later tiers. Not to mention each game can drag on for quite a while since you can only score on your serve with no rally point option to speed things up. With 3 possible matches and no password or save option, you'll basically need to dedicate an hour or 2 if you want to go all the way for the gold. 2 players can compete in the tournament, though they start on separate ends of the bracket, and only go head to head in the final match, if you even get there. So what's the final call on Great Volleyball? Granted, being the only V-Ball card on the Master System gives it the honor of Best Volleyball Game by default. Fortunately, the cart does back it up by taking what Nintendo did and improving greatly on it, from the visuals to the gameplay. A few points do get knocked off for the soul-crushing difficulty in solo play, and the game would have really benefited from being a little more approachable for beginners. But those willing to put in the time will find a pretty enjoyable experience that also provides a nice arena for 2-player competition. Overall, Great Volleyball gets a solid recommendation, even if you're not an aficionado of the sport.